Hi, and welcome to Talks with Shay. So today I would like to begin with reading from Second Peter chapter 3 and verse 8. And it says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." So for today, for part two of weights, I want to talk to you about unmet goals. So when I think about unmet goals, I think about goals that we've planned for our life that doesn't work out. And a lot of times it becomes a weight on us because we had dreams and plans and thought that our life would work out the way that we thought it would. Growing up, I can remember, one of my little stories, I guess, not stories, but cartoons or whatever, I couldn't even think of it, was you think of Cinderella, how she had a rough life. The stepmama was like ugly to her, and then she ended up having this beautiful wedding and meet this man. And so a lot of times when we're children, we look at that and we say, oh, I want my life to end just that way. And we set goals for ourselves and we make plans for ourselves, and sometimes those plans just does not work out in our favor. And so what happens is it causes us to become weighed down and saddened because life threw us curveballs that we never expected. But it's called just that, life. That's what life brings, the good and the bad. And so a lot of times what happens is because the dreams and the goals that we had planned for our lives didn't work out, we try to think like, okay, I'm going to help God out because he needs my help. Just like the scripture we read, like God is not worried about time. We are the ones worried about time. But timing is everything with God. We can rush things or we step out of God's will to do things because we think God need our help. He doesn't need our help. We need his help. And so many times our dreams went out of the window. I never thought that I would have been divorced 3 times, never in a million years. And so it's like even now, I'm not gonna say now anymore, but I used to always be worried about that because I'm like, people probably gonna think I was the problem, which I was part of the problem, but out of all 3 of them, there was only one of them that I really wanted to be divorced from. Goodbye. And so it's like, but I never planned for my life to be that way. But growing up, I saw unhealthy relationships, and that's what I landed in. But even though that I went through those things in my life, I'm so thankful today it still, because in the midst of all of that, God still was God and God was still good. His timing is everything. We rush things sometimes. And sometimes God is like, slow down, slow down. And we just want to go straight through that red light, or let me say that yellow light, and then don't want the cops to stop us. But it's the truth. Timing with God is everything. And with God, it's like we looking at like 2 months, like that is so long. And God, like, that's a day to God, like literally to him, that's nothing. And it's like, we're crying because, well, God, I wanted to be married at age 33. I wanted to have my first child at age 34, and then here you are, 36, still single, no kids. And it's like, that wasn't supposed to happen like that, God. What went wrong? So then what we do is we'll find ourselves settling for any man because we want what we want, how we want it. And instead of waiting on God's timing for that goal to be met in his time, what happens is because that goal wasn't met when we thought it should be met, we go out on a limb and do things that we later regret. And we have to live with those regrets. And sometimes the hardest thing is to forgive ourselves for those mistakes that we've made, that we known if we were to wait on God, He knew what was best for us. Don't let the weight of unmet goals weigh you down anymore. It's time to lift that weight off of your shoulder and realize that, you know what? A goal is a goal, but timing is everything with God. And if it lines up with His plan for you, it's going to work out in your favor. It really will. And sometimes that get hard. I get that. I get it. Because I'm like, I'm tired being single, God. But I'm like, during this time of my singleness, I've drawn closer to God. I've learned more about myself. I've seen the things that I needed to work on as an individual. And that's just a tad bit. Yeah, I always dreamed that I would be a counselor one day. God put them brakes on that both times that I tried to go back to school for my master's. God knows what my future holds. I don't, but God does. Why would I go back to school, get a master's? Because that's something that I want to do, but does it line up for my future that He has for me? Wherever He may lead me, I may not need a master's. So why go all that money to Sally Mae, like I told y'all before, for nothing? So don't be discouraged that goals and plans that you have for your life maybe haven't come to pass yet. Just hold on a little longer. Because if it's according to God's will for your life, it will come to pass. We have to learn to stop limiting God and put a timeline on God. Okay, God, by this time, this needs to happen. By this time, this needs to happen. And God's like, hold on. Are you God or am I God? And He's God and He doesn't need our help. He knows just what He's doing. The trials and the tribulations that we go through in our lives is to get us to that goal that we probably have set for ourselves or God even impressed upon us. But it's all in the waiting. There's patience that we have to endure through the waiting. When we get impatient with God's timing, what happens? We flip everything upside down. And then we settle and we do things that we would not normally do. We get so impatient with God as if He's in a hurry. God's not in a hurry, but sometimes we are. We just need to slow down and say, you know what, God? You got this. I trust you, and I know it's going to all work out for my good. Stop letting the weight of those goals and those dreams that you've hoped for, prayed for, and thought of. Stop letting the weight of that, because it didn't come to pass yet, discourage you to think that it's not going to happen. That's not what that means. Unless God said no. Now, if God said no, God said no. Don't go pushing no door down that God don't want you to push down. And sometimes that's what we do. I think of even just jobs in general. Jobs. We need to take jobs that God wants us to have. I think that if we would learn to wait on God for the right job and that right opportunity, that it would be, He'll put us in a place where He give us favor with our employer and with different employees on our job. God knows just what He's doing. He has you where you are for such a time as this. Don't get impatient with Him. In that waiting, just hold on and trust in His unchanging hand, because He knows just what He's doing. I've seen over and over and over how perfect His timing truly is. My life at 43 may not be what I thought it would be, but I'm okay. I've learned to accept it for what it is. And regardless of where I am at 43 and where I thought I would be, God is still good and He's still in control. And just like I'm leaving it in His hands to do whatever He chooses to do, I trust He knows what's really best for me. He said if I delight myself in Him, He would give me the desires of my heart. And I stand on that word and I believe that word. My life may not be what I thought it would be, but I thank God it's not what it used to be. I've come a long way and God have brought me through a lot of different things. And I'm here to tell you today, I thank Him for it. I thank Him for every trial that He's brought me through, because He trusted me with it. And that's what we have to get on board with God with. Trust in him that, you know what, God, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know that it will. Those unmet goals that you have in your life that haven't come to pass yet, and I encourage you today, just hold on, because if God said yes, it will happen, but it's all in his timing. Don't get impatient with God. Just wait on God. He will renew your strength. You know, so many people I've watched, including myself, settle in so many things in their lives because of frustration, and that's not how life was supposed to be, and their parents expected them to do this and they did this, and we can go on and on. You get what I'm saying? Because of those unmet goals where you are today in your life, just because they haven't come to pass yet doesn't mean that they won't. Pray for God's will, and everything else will fall into place. So, I hope something I said today encourage you to take the weights off of your shoulders of those unmet goals that have not been fulfilled. Keyword, yet. It's going to happen. Just hold on and trust in God's unchanging hands. So before I go, I just want to remind you, if you haven't already, check out my website at www.talkswithshay.org. You can subscribe to my videos on YouTube and also find me on Facebook. Like my page, share my page, invite your friends to like my page. Yes, and until next time with Talks with Shay, Shay is out. Y'all be blessed.